The sun had barely risen over the sprawling campus of the Terran United Forces Academy when the silence was shattered by the thunderous roar of an alien spacecraft descending. It was a sight to behold. The ship, a sleek silver vessel etched with the glowing sigils of the Xeroc Empire, hovered momentarily before landing smoothly on the designated interstellar landing pad. Tarkin, clad in the traditional armor of a Xeroc warrior, descended from the ship with a majestic yet menacing aura. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the Earth's sun, and his 4 luminous eyes scanned the gathering crowd with a mix of curiosity and contempt. On the ground, a mixed assembly of military personnel, cadets, and dignitaries awaited, their expressions ranging from awe to apprehension. Among them was General Carter, the grizzled veteran in charge of the academy, and Cadet Commander Miriam Jacobs, who had been chosen to guide and assist Tarkin during his stay due to her exemplary record and diplomatic tact. As Tarkin approached, General Carter stepped forward, extending a hand in a gesture of peace and cooperation. Tarkin looked at the hand, hesitating momentarily before reciprocating the gesture. His massive hand enveloped the general's, the handshake awkward but significant. "Welcome to the Terran United Forces Academy, Lieutenant Tarkin," General Carter announced, his voice firm yet welcoming. "Your participation in our exchange program is a historic step towards understanding and peace between our peoples." Tarkin's deep voice rumbled as he replied, "I am here to observe and learn, General Carter. I hope your warriors are as formidable as you claim." His tone, though polite, carried an unmistakable edge of skepticism. Miriam stepped forward, offering Tarkin a slight bow of her head, respecting his cultural expressions of greeting. "If you'll follow me, Lieutenant, I'll show you to your quarters and provide a schedule of your activities here." As they walked through the campus, Tarkin's eyes lingered on the various training fields where young cadets were already busy with their morning drills. Despite his initial doubts, a part of him was intrigued by these humans who seemed so fragile, yet carried themselves with undeniable courage and discipline. Miriam noticed his interest and commented, "Our cadets train in various disciplines, from combat strategy to interstellar navigation. You'll find that while we may lack the physical prowess of the Xeroc, we have our own strengths." Tarkin's first full day at the Terran United Forces Academy began with an extensive tour of the facilities, guided by Miriam. As they walked through the sprawling campus, Tarkin's towering figure drew curious glances from students and instructors alike. His presence was impossible to ignore, not only due to his size and fearsome appearance, but also the weight of expectation that came with his role as the first Xeroc to participate in such an exchange. The tour included visits to various classrooms, simulation rooms, and the advanced technology labs. Tarkin was particularly impressed by the Virtual Tactical Training Center, a state-of-the-art facility where cadets underwent combat simulations against a wide array of programmed enemies, including hypothetical Xeroc adversaries. "Your simulations are comprehensive," Tarkin remarked, watching a group of cadets coordinate an assault on a simulated enemy stronghold. "But can they truly replicate the chaos of real combat?" Miriam, who had anticipated his skepticism, nodded. "Simulations can only teach so much," she admitted. "The real test always comes under actual field conditions. That's why our training also includes live exercises." Tarkin's gaze lingered on the cadets. "And these cadets? They are your future leaders? They seem so young." "They are young," Miriam agreed, "but they are also capable. They must be, to defend not just our world but also to uphold peace across systems. We train not just brawn here, Lieutenant, but brains as well." As the tour continued, they visited the Academy's extensive library, filled with military texts, historical volumes, and databases of interstellar knowledge. Tarkin was drawn to a section on Xeroc history, written from a human perspective. His fingers traced the spines of the books, a frown creasing his brow. "It is unusual to see our history through the eyes of another species," he said quietly. Miriam watched him closely, aware of the sensitivity of cultural representation. "We believe in understanding our potential friends and foes alike," she explained. "Knowledge can bridge the gap that fear widens." Their next stop was the physical training fields where cadets were engaged in a rigorous obstacle course. Tarkin watched with a critical eye as cadets climbed walls, sprinted across rough terrain, and navigated hazardous environments designed to test their physical limits and strategic thinking. Physical prowess is not our only strength, but endurance, resilience, and agility are qualities we cultivate in every cadet, Miriam pointed out. Tarkin seemed unconvinced, crossing his massive arms over his chest. In Zrak culture, strength and dominance in combat are paramount. It is how we establish hierarchy and maintain order. Your methods seem lenient. Miriam smiled slightly, a glint of challenge in her eyes. Perhaps, Lieutenant Tarkin, you would be willing to join a training session? It might offer you a new perspective on our methods. For a moment, Tarkin looked surprised. Then his mouth curved into a semblance of a smile. I accept your challenge, Cadet Commander. Let us see what your cadets are made of. The training grounds buzzed with anticipation as word spread of Tarkin's participation in the day's exercises. Cadets and instructors gathered, eager to witness the prowess of a Zrak warrior firsthand. The air was charged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Miriam led Tarkin to the center of the arena, where a mixed group of cadets awaited their instructions. The exercise was a strategic capture-the-flag game, designed to test teamwork, strategy, and adaptability in a controlled yet competitive environment. Tarkin, assigned to lead one of the teams, surveyed his group, a mix of humans of various sizes and capabilities. Your objective, explained the training officer, is to capture the opposing team's flag from their base and bring it back to your starting point. The arena is equipped with obstacles and cover points, and each team member will be equipped with a non-lethal laser tag system to simulate combat conditions. Tarkin listened intently, his mind already racing through various strategies. His team looked to him, some with evident nervousness given his imposing stature and fierce reputation. Follow my lead, he commanded, his voice resonant with authority. Observe and adapt. Victory is achieved not by individual strength but by collective effort and strategic execution. As the game commenced, Tarkin's team moved cautiously, using the terrain to their advantage. Tarkin himself was a formidable presence, moving with surprising agility for his size. He directed his team with sharp commands, quickly adapting human strategies with his own tactical insights. However, the opposing team, led by a seasoned cadet officer named Jonas, had strategies of their own. They anticipated Tarkin's movements, using diversions and guerrilla tactics that disrupted his plans. Tarkin found himself impressed by their ingenuity and the way they compensated for their physical limitations with clever maneuvers and teamwork. The match reached its climax when Tarkin, isolated from his team by a clever feint, faced multiple opponents alone. He managed to take out 2 cadets but was ultimately hit by a well-coordinated ambush. Standing there, his suit signaling his injury, Tarkin experienced a moment of clarity. His initial underestimation of the human cadets had led to this outcome. The game ended with Jonas's team capturing Tarkin's flag. The cadets cheered, their faces flushed with the thrill of the game and the pride of having bested a Zrak warrior in strategy. Tarkin, meanwhile, approached Jonas, offering a nod of respect. You have taught me a valuable lesson today, Tarkin admitted, his voice grudging but sincere. Your tactics are unconventional by our standards, but effective. I underestimated you, and it cost us the victory. Jonas, surprised by the humility shown by the alien warrior, replied, We learn from every encounter, Lieutenant Tarkin. Your strategies pushed us to our limits. It was an honor to compete against you. As they walked off the field, Miriam joined Tarkin, a smile playing on her lips. What do you think of our training now? She asked. Tarkin looked around at the cadets, some of whom were watching him with newfound respect. It is not the strength of the body that always leads to victory, but the strength of the mind and the spirit, he conceded. I look forward to learning more from your people. The next morning, Tarkin joined Miriam at the physical training fields at dawn, still reflecting on the lessons of the previous day's competition. Today's schedule was centered on endurance training. an area where Tarkin was confident the Zraq naturally excelled due to their rugged physiology and harsh planetary conditions. As they approached the fields, Tarkin observed groups of cadets already in the midst of rigorous exercises. They were running laps, lifting weights, and engaging in resistance training designed to push their physical limits. Miriam explained, "Today you'll see how we focus on building stamina and resilience. It's not just about strength, it's about enduring longer than your adversary, outlasting your opponent." Tarkin nodded, his interest piqued. He was curious to see if any of these human exercises could challenge him. "I shall participate," he declared, stripping off his upper armor to join a group of cadets at the weight station. Under the watchful eyes of both instructors and cadets, Tarkin began the circuit. The first few exercises, basic weightlifting and pull-ups, were trivial for him, his superior strength clear. But as the circuit progressed to more complex exercises designed to test endurance and adaptability, including an obstacle course with varied terrain and a high-intensity interval training session, Tarkin's pace began to slow. The cadets, though physically smaller and less powerful, showed incredible stamina and heart. Their faces were set in determined lines, sweat mingling with the dirt on their skin as they pushed through the pain barrier. Tarkin found himself struggling to keep up, his earlier confidence wavering. One cadet, a young woman named Elsie, noticed Tarkin's faltering. With a supportive nod, she paced alongside him, shouting encouragement. "Come on, Lieutenant, you can do this! Show us what you're made of!" Inspired by her tenacity, Tarkin pushed through his fatigue, keeping pace with Elsie. As they completed the final leg of the endurance course together, Tarkin was panting heavily, a rare occurrence for a Zraq warrior. Elsie, though clearly exhausted, grinned up at him. "Not bad for a big guy," she joked, and Tarkin found himself chuckling, a sound he hadn't expected to make on this alien planet. After the training session, as they cooled down, Tarkin turned to Miriam. "Your cadets are remarkable," he admitted, wiping sweat from his brow. "Their endurance is impressive. It is not the endurance of the body alone, but of the spirit." Miriam smiled, pleased to see another layer of human strength revealed to their visitor. "It's one of our core teachings here," she said. "Physical strength fades, but the strength of will persists. We train to endure because in battle it can mean the difference between life and death." Tarkin nodded thoughtfully, his respect for the human cadets deepening. "I begin to understand," he mused. "Your training does not seek merely to forge strong warriors but resilient ones." Following the intense physical training, Tarkin and Miriam headed to a seminar designed for cross-cultural exchange. The Academy had organized this session to facilitate a deeper understanding between the diverse species training and studying at the Academy, including Tarkin. The room was set up like an open forum, with cadets from various Earth cultures and a few from other allied alien races. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of curiosity and tension, as many cadets were eager to share their perspectives and learn from the imposing Zraq warrior. As the seminar began, a young cadet named Haruto posed the first question to Tarkin. "Lieutenant Tarkin, in many human cultures, leadership is earned through merit and the respect of peers. How is leadership determined among the Zraq?" Tarkin's response was straightforward and tinged with pride. "In Zraq society, leadership is claimed through strength and prowess in battle. It is our way to ensure that only the strongest guide our people." A murmur went through the room. Another cadet, Sophia, raised a hand. "Do you believe this method is better than democratic selection?" Tarkin's brow furrowed, and his tone was slightly defensive. "It has ensured our survival for generations." The discussion grew heated as cadets debated the merits and flaws of various systems of governance, from democratic to authoritarian, each defending their cultural norms. Tarkin listened, sometimes interjecting with a sharp comment, other times quietly absorbing the human perspective. The turning point came when an alien cadet from a pacifist species, the Aloni, spoke up. "Strength is not only physical, it is found in compassion, in making decisions that benefit all, not just the strong. How does your system address the needs of the weak?" Tarkin was visibly unsettled by this question. He paused, searching for an answer. "The strong protect the weak," he finally said, but they must also prove their worth to our society. Miriam watched Tarkin wrestle with these new ideas. She gently steered the conversation towards more neutral ground, discussing the role of cultural diversity in strengthening military strategies. Tarkin listened intently, his expression thoughtful, as cadets shared examples of how mixed perspectives had led to innovative solutions in battle scenarios. As the seminar ended, Tarkin stayed back, surrounded by a few curious cadets, including Haruto and Sophia. They spoke more informally, and Tarkin asked questions about human history, philosophy, and the arts. It was a new side of him that Miriam hadn't anticipated, one that seemed eager to understand rather than to judge. Walking back to their quarters, Miriam asked Tarkin what he thought of the discussion. "It is challenging," he admitted. "In Zrak culture, questioning strength is seen as weakness. Here, it seems questioning is a form of strength." Miriam nodded. "It's how we learn, how we grow. By challenging our beliefs, we discover new paths, perhaps better ones." Tarkin was silent for a moment before speaking. "Perhaps there is strength in your ways, too. Strength I have not yet fully understood." That night, as Tarkin lay in his quarters, the Earth's moon casting a soft glow through the window, he pondered the vastness of the universe and the myriad ways creatures within it found to govern themselves, to survive, and to thrive. His mind was troubled, yet curious, teetering on the brink of a profound transformation in his understanding of strength and leadership. The next phase of Tarkin's integration into the Academy involved participation in a simulated survival scenario designed to mimic hostile environmental conditions. Tarkin, Miriam, and a team of 6 cadets were randomly selected to work together, testing their adaptability and cooperation under stress. The simulation was set in a dense, artificial jungle within the Academy's environmental simulation chamber, complete with temperature controls, humidity adjustments, and even wildlife sounds piped in through hidden speakers. The objective was simple: survive for 48 hours, retrieve a series of critical data points scattered throughout the jungle, and return safely to the extraction point. As they entered the simulation, the lush greenery and heavy air hit them like a wall. Tarkin, accustomed to the arid climate of his homeworld, found the humidity uncomfortable but bearable. The cadets, however, showed varying degrees of readiness, with some immediately taking the lead to navigate, while others gathered necessary resources. "Stick close and keep communication lines open," Miriam instructed, checking her equipment one last time. "We need to move efficiently and support each other. No one goes off alone." Tarkin, observing the team dynamics, began to see the practical applications of human leadership and teamwork. Despite the artificial danger, the cadets' dedication to the mission and to each other was palpable. The first challenge came swiftly. A sudden downpour made visibility nearly zero, and the team had to rely on their navigation gear and verbal cues to stay together. Tarkin's hearing, far superior to that of humans, allowed him to guide the group through the densest parts of the forest. "Turn left here. I can hear the water flowing from that direction," Tarkin directed, leading them around hidden pitfalls and through tangled underbrush. "Good call," said one of the cadets, a young man named Lucas. "We would have missed that." As night fell, the challenges increased. Simulated predators roared in the distance, and one segment of the journey required crossing a river, a deep, fast-flowing body of water simulated with powerful jets and rolling belts. It was during this crossing that Tarkin's respect for the cadets solidified. Elsie slipped and fell into the turbulent water. Without hesitation, Tarkin plunged after her, his powerful arms cutting through the water to pull her to safety. "Thank you," Elsie gasped, clinging to a tree root on the riverbank. "I thought I was a goner." "It is what any of you would have done for me," Tarkin replied, realizing the truth of his words as he saw the concern etched on every face around him. The team made camp as the simulation's night settled in. Gathered around a small heater that mimicked a campfire, they shared rations and stories. Tarkin listened, fascinated by the human capacity for humor and warmth even in simulated danger. In the quiet moments before they attempted to sleep, Miriam approached Tarkin. "You did well today," she said. not just in leading us, but in being one of us. Tarkin looked at the stars visible through the chamber's dome ceiling, a fabricated sky that somehow felt less alien now. I am beginning to understand the strength of unity, he admitted. Your ways are different, but there is honor in them. The next day brought more trials, but the team moved with a new cohesion, their strategies interwoven with Tarkin's insights and their human ingenuity. By the time they reached the extraction point, they were no longer just a group of cadets and an alien observer. They were a unified team, each member having proven their worth to the others. After their successful completion of the survival simulation, Tarkin and the team were assigned to participate in a night operations exercise. This exercise was designed to test their stealth, navigation, and cooperative tactics in darkness, a scenario that favored Tarkin's superior nocturnal senses. Despite this advantage, the exercise would prove to be a profound learning experience for the Zorak warrior. As dusk fell over the academy, Tarkin, Miriam, and their team geared up with night vision goggles, sound suppressors, and other specialized equipment necessary for the operation. Their mission was to infiltrate a mock enemy base, retrieve classified documents, and exit without detection. Remember, the key here is silence and shadows, Miriam briefed the team, her voice low and steady. Tarkin, your experience tonight is invaluable, but remember, we move as one. Tarkin nodded, the green glow of his night vision goggles casting an eerie light on his chitinous face. I understand. Lead, and I will follow, he responded, showing his willingness to integrate human tactical methods with his own. The team moved out under the cover of darkness, blending into the shadows as they approached the designated enemy base, a complex of buildings surrounded by open terrain that was peppered with obstacles and guarded by sensors and drones. Tarkin took point, guiding the team through the most shadowed paths, his senses alert to any sign of movement or noise. The cadets followed closely, their training keeping their movements disciplined and quiet. However, as they neared the objective, an unexpected complication arose. A malfunction in one of Tarkin's equipment pieces, a sensor jammer, suddenly emitted a brief, high-pitched noise, a stark sound in the dead silence of the night. Instantly, the area was flooded with lights as the simulation's security systems detected the anomaly. "Compromise! Move!" shouted Miriam as the team quickly adapted to the new scenario. Now, instead of stealth, they had to rely on speed and evasion. Tarkin, frustrated with his error, was the first to react. He ushered the team forward, using his bulk as a shield as they dashed towards the objective. They retrieved the documents but now faced the challenge of escaping a swarm of pursuing drones programmed to simulate enemy combatants. The escape was chaotic. Drones buzzed overhead, and simulated gunfire echoed around them. The team split into pairs to create multiple targets, a strategy that dispersed the drones and allowed for a narrower escape route through a pre-planned extraction point. Tarkin and Miriam ended up together, sprinting across an open field, the drones close behind. Just as they neared safety, one of the drones tagged Miriam with a simulated shot. Tarkin reacted instinctively, scooping her up without breaking stride, and carrying her the final meters to the extraction zone. Breathing heavily, the team regrouped in the safety zone, their mission technically successful, but not flawless. Tarkin set Miriam down gently, checking to make sure she was unharmed from the simulated fire. "I apologize for the equipment failure," Tarkin said, his voice heavy with responsibility. "It compromised the mission." Miriam shook her head, smiling wryly. "It was a simulation, Tarkin. Errors happen. What matters is how we handle them. And you handled it with courage and quick thinking." The debriefing later that night was constructive, focusing on what went wrong and what was handled well. Tarkin learned a valuable lesson in humility and the importance of backup plans, while the cadets gained a new respect for their alien teammates' commitment and quick actions under pressure. The night operations exercise left a significant mark on Tarkin, both in terms of his respect for human tactics and the emotional bonds he had begun to form with the team. Following the debrief, he found himself more introspective, pondering the lessons about vulnerability and resilience. The next challenge came unexpectedly. During a routine training exercise, an error occurred in the simulation controls, causing Tarkin and a small group of cadets, including Miriam, to become separated from the main group. Suddenly, the training scenario transformed into a real test of survival and teamwork. As they found themselves isolated in a densely wooded area of the training grounds, the group's initial reaction was a mix of confusion and concern. However, Tarkin's leadership quickly surfaced. "We need to stay calm and assess our situation," he instructed, using his own unease as a catalyst to drive his focus. Miriam pulled out a map and a portable communicator. "Let's try to contact the main group," she suggested, but they soon discovered that their communication equipment was malfunctioning. "Looks like we're on our own for now," she concluded, her voice steady despite the grim situation. The group decided to move toward what they believed was the general direction of the academy, relying on basic navigation skills and Tarkin's keen senses. As they trekked through the underbrush, the sun began to set, casting long shadows and bringing an eerie quiet to the forest. The silence was suddenly broken by a rustle in the bushes, causing everyone to tense. A moment later, a deer bounded across their path, its sudden appearance a stark reminder of their vulnerability. Tarkin observed the reactions of the cadets. Some reached for their weapons while others stood frozen. "Stay alert, but remain calm," he advised, realizing the importance of maintaining composure in unknown situations. As night enveloped the woods, the real challenge emerged. Without their high-tech gear, the group had to rely on primitive survival skills. Tarkin felt a gnawing fear, unfamiliar yet potent. This was not his world, and the darkness felt alive with unknown dangers. Miriam noticed Tarkin's discomfort. "It's okay to be scared," she said softly, her voice cutting through the darkness. "Fear is a reminder that we're alive and it keeps us vigilant." Tarkin looked at her, the green glow of his eyes reflecting his inner turmoil. "In Zrak culture, fear is seen as weakness. But here," Miriam responded, "we see it as a signal, not a setback. We use it to sharpen our instincts, not cloud them." The group huddled together for warmth and safety, taking turns keeping watch. Tarkin, during his watch, felt an acute sense of responsibility for these young humans who showed such resilience in the face of adversity. Dawn finally broke, revealing their location to be only a few kilometers from the academy. They had circled back due to disorientation in the dark. As they made their way back to the main campus, Tarkin's respect for human endurance, both physical and emotional, deepened. Upon their return, they were greeted with relief and commendation. The accident was attributed to a technical glitch, and the Academy's staff apologized for the oversight. Tarkin, standing among his team, felt a surge of pride, not for any combat prowess shown, but for the collective strength and mutual support that had seen them through the night. After their unintended night in the wilderness, Tarkin's perspective on the human cadets, and himself, had shifted profoundly. The experience had not only tested their survival skills, but it also forged deeper bonds among them, bonds that were evident as they resumed their training at the academy. In the days that followed, Tarkin took part in a series of advanced combat training exercises. These sessions were designed to integrate various combat styles and techniques, showcasing the versatility and adaptability of human military tactics. For Tarkin, these were opportunities to demonstrate his own prowess and to learn from the cadets, whose respect he had begun to earnestly earn. One particular session involved close-quarters combat training, a scenario where Tarkin's physical advantage was less significant compared to his ability to anticipate and counter human moves. Miriam, now frequently his sparring partner, proved a formidable opponent. Her agility and tactical thinking posed a challenge that Tarkin found both frustrating and invigorating. During one intense sparring match, Miriam managed to land a well-timed strike that caught Tarkin off guard, resulting in a simulated takedown. The onlookers, a mix of cadets and instructors, were initially shocked, then broke into applause. Tarkin, lying on the mat, looked up at Miriam, extending her hand to help him up. "That was an excellent move, Cadet Commander," Tarkin said, accepting her hand. His voice carried no trace of resentment, only genuine admiration. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Miriam replied, a smile of satisfaction on her face. "You're a quick learner, though. I'm sure you'll have me figured out soon enough." Their exchanges, observed by others, became lessons in themselves, demonstrations of mutual respect, and the ongoing exchange of knowledge between cultures. Tarkin's attitude towards the training sessions evolved from a focus on demonstrating Zorak's superiority to a genuine eagerness to learn and adapt. The next segment of the training involved group tactics, where Tarkin and a team of cadets were pitted against another team in a series of simulated battlefield scenarios. Tarkin's strategic input, combined with the cadets' innovative approaches, resulted in a series of wins for his team, but more importantly, it showcased a seamless integration of Zorak and human tactics. One afternoon following a particularly challenging exercise, General Carter approached Tarkin. "Lieutenant, I must say, watching you and our cadets work together has been enlightening. You've brought a new perspective to our training, and I believe our cadets have given you a few things to think about as well." Tarkin nodded, his gaze sweeping over the training field where cadets were cooling down, discussing the day's lessons. "Indeed, General, I came here with certain assumptions about human soldiers. I see now that I had much to learn. Their resilience, their creativity, their willingness to adapt, they are strengths I had not fully appreciated." The respect Tarkin earned from the cadets and the instructors grew not just from his combat skills, but from his openness to learning and adapting. This respect was mirrored in his own growing appreciation for human methods and the realization that strength came in many forms. As the training program neared its conclusion, Tarkin found himself deeply involved in an advanced combat training session that would test all the skills he had honed at the academy. This session, designed to simulate a complex battlefield environment, included both virtual and live-action components, demanding high levels of strategy, physical prowess, and teamwork. The morning began with a briefing in the Academy's war room, where the scenario was laid out. A multi-phase operation involving reconnaissance, engagement, and extraction, set in a digitally rendered cityscape fraught with challenges. Tarkin, leading one of the cadet teams, was eager to apply the blend of Zorak and human tactics he had learned and developed during his time at the Academy. Miriam was appointed as the tactical advisor for Tarkin's team, her role crucial in bridging the different combat styles and ensuring smooth communication among the diverse group of cadets. As they geared up, she reviewed the plan with Tarkin, emphasizing the importance of adaptability in the face of unexpected challenges. The simulation kicked off with the team navigating through the digital city, encountering various threats from automated drone attackers to simulated enemy forces. Tarkin's leadership was immediately evident, his commands clear and decisive. Yet he remained open to suggestions from the team, incorporating their ideas into his strategies. During a critical phase of the mission, the team encountered a heavily fortified enemy position blocking their path to the extraction point. Tarkin proposed a bold flanking maneuver, relying on a small squad to draw the enemy's attention while the rest of the team executed a sneak attack. Miriam supported the plan, coordinating the diversion with precision. The maneuver was risky, and the intense simulation environment tested the physical and mental stamina of the team. Tarkin, at the forefront, found himself relying not just on his strength, but also on the human traits of perseverance and teamwork he had come to admire. The cadets moved with fluidity and determination, their actions a testament to their rigorous training and their leader's guidance. As they breached the enemy's defenses and secured the extraction point, the simulation ended with the team achieving a high score, reflective of their effective collaboration and strategic execution. The debriefing session that followed highlighted the successful integration of diverse tactics and the importance of leadership that respected and utilized the strengths of all team members. General Carter, observing the session, noted Tarkin's growth as both a warrior and a leader. "Lieutenant Tarkin, your evolution during your time here is remarkable. You've not only mastered some of our tactics, but have taught us much about the strengths of Zorak strategies." Tarkin responded with humility. a stark contrast to the proud warrior who had first stepped onto the academy grounds. "I have learned far more than I have imparted, General. The courage, creativity, and spirit of your cadets have taught me the true strength of diversity and unity." As they exited the training facility, Miriam walked alongside Tarkin, a sense of camaraderie between them. "You did well today, Tarkin, not just in leading us to victory, but in showing how much you've embraced our ways." Tarkin looked at the young cadet commander, his expression one of respect and gratitude. "And you have shown me the power of leading with wisdom and compassion. I will carry these lessons back to Zrak, not just as tactics of war, but as strategies for peace." After the success of the advanced combat training session, Tarkin was invited to attend a series of lectures on human military history, designed to provide broader context to the training he had received and to deepen his understanding of human strategies and ethics in warfare. The lecture hall was filled with cadets and instructors, all eager to hear insights from one of the Academy's most distinguished historians, Professor Langley. As Tarkin took his seat beside Miriam, he prepared himself for what he expected to be a routine review of historical battles and tactics. However, what he learned that day profoundly altered his perception of humanity. Professor Langley began with an overview of ancient human conflicts but quickly moved to more recent history, focusing on the World Wars, the Cold War, and other modern conflicts. He discussed not only the strategies and outcomes but also the human costs of these wars, the devastation, the loss of life, and the impact on civilian populations. "As we examine these conflicts," Professor Langley said, his voice somber, "we must remember that war is not just a series of strategic maneuvers executed in battlefields afar, but a deeply human ordeal that has shaped our civilization in profound ways." Tarkin listened intently, his expression growing increasingly troubled as he absorbed the scale and depth of suffering caused by these wars. The stories of entire cities destroyed, families torn apart, and soldiers sacrificing their lives struck a chord within him, challenging the glorification of war he had been raised with. During a discussion on the ethical considerations of nuclear warfare and the concept of mutual assured destruction, Tarkin raised his hand, a gesture he had learned from the cadets. "Professor, how do humans reconcile the necessity of war with its consequences? How do you justify actions that lead to such loss?" The room fell silent, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Professor Langley paused before answering, choosing his words carefully. "It is a question we continuously struggle with, Lieutenant Tarkin. Our history is not only a record of our victories but also our failures, our moments of despair, and our attempts at redemption. We teach this history to understand the gravity of our decisions and to strive to make better choices." The lecture left Tarkin deeply moved and troubled by the paradoxes of human nature, capable of great cruelty, yet also great compassion. After the session, he and Miriam walked through the academy grounds, both lost in thought. "Tarkin, what are your thoughts on what you learned today?" Miriam asked gently, sensing his inner conflict. Tarkin looked at the peaceful campus around him, students mingling and laughing, a stark contrast to the horrors he had just heard about. "I am unsettled," he admitted. "In Zrak culture, strength and victory are celebrated above all, but today I have seen the cost of such values, the scars they leave on your world. It makes me question what we, too, have lost in our pursuit of dominance." Miriam nodded, understanding the turmoil such experiences could evoke. "It's a hard lesson for us all," she replied. "But recognizing the cost is a step toward preventing future suffering. Maybe that's something you can take back to your people." After the revealing lecture on human military history, Tarkin spent considerable time reflecting on his own culture's practices and the lessons he could bring back to Zrak. His next step at the Academy involved participating in a joint operations simulation, a capstone event meant to showcase the integration of human and Zrak military tactics. The simulation was set up as a peacekeeping mission in a volatile region of a newly discovered planet. The scenario required careful negotiation with local factions, strategic deployment of forces to prevent conflict, and rapid humanitarian responses to crises. Tarkin and Miriam were designated as co-leaders of the mission, symbolizing the newfound partnership between their species. As they prepared their teams, Tarkin proposed using a combination of Zrock, direct combat techniques, and human psychological operations to manage potential threats. Miriam added a layer of diplomacy and intelligence gathering to the plan, ensuring they had a comprehensive approach. "Today we demonstrate the strength that comes from unity," Tarkin addressed his team with a confidence that was now tempered with humility. "We have learned from each other, and now we apply this knowledge for a common goal: peace." The simulation began, and Tarkin found himself in the middle of a complex negotiation with the simulated local leaders, portrayed by advanced AI. Miriam's advice to use empathy and understanding proved invaluable, and Tarkin's directness secured a tentative agreement quickly. However, as the scenario progressed, they faced simulated attacks from insurgent groups. Here, Tarkin took the lead, deploying Zrock defensive formations while Miriam coordinated human technological support to intercept communications and thwart attacks. Their integrated approach allowed them to handle threats efficiently, minimizing civilian casualties and maintaining the fragile peace. As the operation drew to a close, the simulation controllers threw a final challenge at them: a humanitarian crisis caused by a natural disaster. Together, Tarkin and Miriam organized evacuation efforts, medical aid, and temporary shelters. Tarkin was deeply involved in the rescue operations, showing a level of compassion and leadership that mirrored the best of human commanders. When the simulation ended, the debrief highlighted the successful outcomes of their joint strategies. The instructors praised their ability to merge their tactical approaches and adapt to evolving situations. The exercise was not only a test of military prowess, but also of their ability to work as equal partners. "Your leadership has transformed this exercise into a demonstration of what our futures could hold," General Carter remarked during the debrief. "Lieutenant Tarkin, your growth and willingness to embrace our methods have paved the way for a deeper collaboration between our worlds." Tarkin, standing beside Miriam, felt a surge of pride, not just in his achievements, but in the possibilities that lay ahead. "Today, we built something greater than a military alliance," he said, his voice resonant with conviction. "We forged a bond of understanding and mutual respect. I will return to Zrock, not just as a warrior, but as an advocate for this partnership." As they exited the simulation room, Miriam looked at Tarkin with respect and a hint of admiration. "You've changed a lot since you first arrived," she noted. Tarkin smiled, a rare expression that lightened his stern features. "I came here a soldier certain of his path. I leave as a leader eager to explore new ones. Thank you, Miriam, for being an integral part of this journey." As the end of Tarkin's time at the Terran United Forces Academy approached, the atmosphere was bittersweet. Both the cadets and the instructors had grown accustomed to the towering Zrock warrior's presence, and his departure felt like the closing of a significant chapter for everyone involved. A farewell ceremony was organized in Tarkin's honor, held in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Academy. The hall was packed with cadets, faculty, and several high-ranking officers from both human and allied alien forces. Decorations reflecting a blend of Earth and Zrock cultures adorned the walls, symbolizing the unity that had been fostered during his stay. General Carter opened the ceremony with a speech that highlighted the successes of the exchange program and Tarkin's personal contributions to the Academy. "Lieutenant Tarkin arrived here as a representative of the Zrock military, and he leaves as a much-valued ally and friend," General Carter declared, his voice echoing in the packed hall. When it was his turn to speak, Tarkin stepped up to the podium, his figure imposing yet no longer alien in the eyes of the assembly. He looked over the crowd, his gaze lingering on the faces he had come to know and respect. "During my time here, I have been challenged, taught, and humbled," Tarkin began, his voice steady and powerful. "I came to learn about human military tactics, but I leave with much more: a deeper understanding of your resilience, your compassion, and your unwavering commitment to peace and justice." Tarkin's speech continued, detailing specific instances of learning and camaraderie. He thanked the cadets and instructors by name, especially Miriam, who he acknowledged as not just a guide, but a friend and a valued counterpart. I will return to Zarak with stories of your bravery and wisdom. I will advocate for peace and for a continued partnership between our species. The lessons I have learned here will inform not just military strategies, but also how we approach the challenges of interstellar relations, Tarkin affirmed, his commitment resonating with everyone present. The ceremony concluded with the presentation of a symbolic gift to Tarkin, a piece of artwork representing Earth and Zarak, intertwined with symbols of peace and cooperation. Tarkin accepted the gift, visibly moved, promising to place it in the Zarak High Command, where it would serve as a reminder of the potential for unity and mutual respect. After the formalities, the floor was opened for informal interactions, where many cadets and staff members came forward to bid personal farewells. Tarkin, usually reserved, responded with warmth and gratitude, taking the time to speak with each person. As the ceremony drew to a close, Miriam approached Tarkin. "You've made more of an impact here than you may realize," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Don't be a stranger to us." Tarkin nodded, the gesture full of respect and promise. "This is not goodbye, Miriam. It is until we meet again. Thank you for everything." On the morning of his departure, Tarkin stood at the landing pad where his ship, now prepared for the long journey back to Zarak, waited silently. The early morning air was crisp, and the sky was a clear blue, a perfect backdrop for farewells. Around him gathered many of the cadets and instructors from the academy, including General Carter and Miriam, all come to see him off. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of emotions, pride, sadness, and a strong sense of accomplishment. Tarkin, dressed in his Zarak military uniform, which now bore a few human-made insignias as tokens of his time on Earth, appeared ready, yet reflective. General Carter stepped forward, offering Tarkin a firm handshake, a gesture of mutual respect that had become familiar to them both. "Lieutenant Tarkin, your visit has been a milestone in human-Zarak relations. We are better for it, and we hope you feel the same." Tarkin nodded, his four eyes briefly closing in acknowledgement. "General, I leave a better leader and a better being because of my time here. I carry back with me not just memories, but also lessons that I believe will help foster a lasting peace between our species." Miriam, standing a little apart, then came forward. Her expression was composed, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Tarkin turned to her, his demeanor softening. "Miriam, you have been more than a guide. You have been my anchor in a world that was once foreign to me. Thank you for your patience, your courage, and your friendship." Miriam smiled, her voice steady though filled with emotion. "It was my honor, Tarkin. Remember that you always have allies here, and I hope to see the fruits of what you've learned shared among your people." Tarkin then addressed the gathering, his voice carrying clearly. "To all of you, know that you have changed one Zarak's view of humanity. I return to my world not with warnings of human aggression, but with tales of your strength, your wisdom, and your kindness. We have much to learn from each other, and I look forward to the day our paths cross again." With final handshakes and nods, Tarkin turned and walked up the ramp of his spacecraft. He paused at the top, turning to give one last wave before disappearing into the vessel. The engines hummed to life, and as the ship lifted off, a cheer went up from the crowd. Watching the ship ascend into the sky and shrink to a speck before vanishing, Miriam felt a profound sense of hope mixed with sadness. She was proud of what they had achieved, but couldn't help feeling like this was only the beginning of something greater. Back on his ship, as Earth receded into the distance, Tarkin felt a surge of mixed emotions. He was eager to return to his people and share his experiences, yet he knew he would miss the friends he had made. He spent the journey back reflecting on his time at the academy, organizing his thoughts, and planning how he would advocate for change within the Zarak military and government.